Today is the day that publicly facing what's being uploaded on my channel is the video that I made last week about my medical mystery, and that was before I took my private labs and I got my blood drawn. Basically, I paid for a panel of vitamins to be tested and micronutrients or whatever, and they came back mostly normal. I was lower on my B12 than I had been 3 months ago, and before my B6 came in, I thought maybe my neuropathy was because I had such a drop in B12. A normal range between 200 and I guess 400, mine's like 300 something. You can exhibit signs of neuropathy, it said. And so I was bracing myself on maybe trying to adjust my limits of B12 and see if my neuropathy, which is basically like the tingling, the numbness, that kind of stuff, that improved, because there was evidence that I was lower on the scale than I had been the last time I checked it. And so that was a starting point if I couldn't like really pinpoint like an obvious hammer home thing. But yesterday after my nap, my B6 plasma results or whatever came in, and it's 50 points above what's normal in people, and that means I'm toxic. So that means that I have to get the excess B6 out of my system, and it's confusing to me how a water-soluble vitamin can get stored up. And like, this video is not to like educate you on B6 toxicity. I'm literally a person that just barely learned about it yesterday, that I was B6 toxic. I have been trying to search for my root cause of all my symptoms that I've been experiencing, and I was the only one on my care team that was trying to find the center of a web. And I kept Googling and Googling, trying to like figure out like why I had certain problems. And the majority of the thing kept saying you're either B6 deficient or you're B6 toxic. And I, before doing all this Googling and getting all these symptoms, I before didn't even know that B6 was kind of finicky. And I didn't know that the symptoms of B6 deficiency or B6 toxicity pretty much acted the same. And so it was impossible to like self-diagnose yourself, because they literally looked like the same things. And so that is why it's so important to like listen to your body. If you remember my last week's video, if you watched it, I had suggested to my doctor this same exact test that came with the result that I'm B6 toxic by 50 points above normal. And I don't even know if that's like a lot, like on a standard scale, like I don't know. Because like obviously I'm not a medical person, but I can read that it's too high. Like I could see that. And I don't know if like just 1 point over is like toxic and would like give me these symptoms, or you need to be a certain level of toxic in order to like give these symptoms. I have no idea. I do know that it's linked to supplements. I have been taking supplements, and in this video I'm going to tell you the exact supplements that I was taking for about a year and why, and kind of how that happened. And I'm not a wealth of knowledge when it comes to like how to fix this or what I'm gonna do to fix this, and I'm not even gonna talk about like that part, because I feel like I'm not a good person to give you that information. I'm not qualified for that. I just barely learned that I have this. I haven't even talked to my doctor yet, and I have some ideas of what's going to be helpful based upon like what the internet said, but also what the internet said can like lead you very astray. So like before, I want you to really think about this. before you go and tell somebody to do an extreme thing or that their problem is such and such, I want you to understand that there are sometimes two sides to the coin, and what you might be saying to somebody could be really not helpful. In fact, it could be very damaging. During the time that I was trying to figure out if I was toxic or deficient, right before my test, I made like this calculation, like this kind of like risk versus reward idea in my head to follow the recommended daily dose of vitamin 6 by like keeping track of my like nutrients and everything that I ate, by like literally weighing it out and putting in exact measurements of the food. And there's like an app that like does that. I think there's a bunch of different apps, but the one that I used was chronometer. I used that to like keep track of it right before I took my test, because you have, like, if I was deficient, like I was at least taking in a little bit of B6, like enough to like kind of like not make my deficiency horrible. But if I was toxic, I wasn't taking in vast amounts. Like I was stopping my vitamins, and I was, you know, I was trying to do what was best for both sides of the coin, whatever that was, because like I said, it was almost impossible to figure out on my own, because the internet basically said both those symptom things are the same. And so like it's very frustrating to me to have people tell me, which is why I didn't want to publish last week's video. I didn't want to publish last week's video. I filmed it and then I didn't want to publish it because I knew there was going to be a whole bunch of people trying to like diagnose me or like tell me what to do. And for somebody who's like looking for answers, that can be like rabbit holes that you don't know if you're like actually hurting them. Like you don't mean to, but like what you're saying is maybe not helpful. And so that's why in this video, if I'm going to decide to do a certain thing for myself, I'm going to keep that to myself. And maybe after about 6 months or so, I can tell you my journey of what I did for myself, and you can kind of look at my symptoms of what I said in this video, and you can kind of compare them to the symptoms that I end up with in 6 months after following what I'm going to follow. I don't want to give you a solution, because what my solution might be could actually be really harmful to you. And like, I know you're looking for answers, but like the answers are get specific tests done, get specific help for what your body is doing. And it's like not one, just because you have B6 deficiency or toxicity does not mean it manifests the same in every single person. The way that I understand what B6 does, it handles a lot of different parts of the body, and it mostly handles, let me just look that up so I don't get that wrong, because that would be like really bad. It serves as a coenzyme in more than 140 enzyme reactions. So that's a lot of different ways in which it could manifest in your body if you have something kind of going wrong with it. Like on the list of symptoms for toxicity, there's weight loss and there's weight gain. Those are extreme opposites, right? But they presented like differently in somebody who has the same thing happening. They both have B6 toxicity. So I'm sure that those two sides of the coin, the weight loss and the weight gain, that could be the same for a deficiency. So what was helpful in this whole thing was I listened to my body, and I made educated guesses on what was most likely happening, and I took the chance, and it just happened to be the one thing that I was trying to test for was B6, and it came back that I was toxic. So I don't think that it's a common thing, but I don't know if it's not common because people are either not talking about it or they're not getting blood tests done. I don't know if the toxic is like tolerable so that people don't actually go get tested. Like I don't know at what point was like the tipping point to like kick my symptoms into like, I really need to fix this now, because I've obviously been living with this for kind of a while, and only within the last 2 months have my symptoms been like super intolerable. Like I didn't feel well, that's not lovely, but they were not intolerable. So I don't know if that's like just a rare thing to happen, and like my body plus the supplements over time, like whatever was my baseline in my body just did this. Like I'm not educated enough to like tell you why this happens, and I'm also not educated enough to tell you like how quickly you can feel better. Like this is not that video. The video that I'm trying to explain is like, please don't tell people based on symptoms, your friends, people on the internet, whatever, your like family members, please don't push them to a certain diagnosis just because it sounds like something that you've heard of. It's helpful to tell them to check something. It's not helpful to tell them don't get checked for something and then just start a treatment, especially if it's kind of extreme. So what I'm trying to tell you is, for a while now, a lot of people have been telling me my symptoms are not a problem, which clearly that's not right, or my symptoms can be solved with doing the opposite of what needs to happen. So a lot of my symptoms ended up being very similar to my brother's, which my theory is that, and my brother loves me, these people that are like trying to help me are like genuinely trying to help me, because what they've done for their body, they've gotten better, and they want to just like help me along on the cause. Jump on the bandwagon, Michelle. You're just delaying the inevitable of getting well if you're resisting. Well, I think that there's a reason why I resist being told what to do. I have to like learn from myself like what is happening, and I like to gather evidence. And so if there's evidence that I have a B6 deficiency, then it makes sense to go carnivore. That's what my brother did to fix his majority of his symptoms. He was not doing well, and he was able to really help himself by getting off of everything else, except for he just ate a lot of beef. And coincidentally, there's a ton of B6 in beef and like products that are animal products. So when I was telling him my symptoms, I would express to him a lot of similar but slightly different, because they manifest different in my body, but there was enough overlap for us to be like, maybe there's something to this. Maybe you should go on carnivore, Michelle. And I resisted because I was like, well, I don't think that I should, because I need to know more before kind of like overhauling what to do. And I'm kind of glad that I did that, because that would have just been like, I would have been supplementing probably still, because I would have thought that I had a deficiency, and I would have just been eating a ton of food that had B6, which is like the opposite of what I actually need to do. And that would have just harmed me for longer. And probably what I was doing, just baseline of just like randomly taking supplements, and I'll kind of explain like my supplement intake in a little bit, but like just randomly taking supplements and kind of like not figuring out like where my nutrition was, because I didn't really know to like look into it. I just kind of felt bad, and I was like looking for MS. I was looking for, which I still don't know if I actually don't have. Nobody's actually tested me, but that would be really bad luck to have B6 toxicity plus MS. So I'm pretty sure that most of my problem is B6 toxicity, but once I kind of take care of that, then I'll kind of see sort of like what's left lingering under the rug, right? So anyways, that is kind of like what I wanted to convey. It's like I'm a little bit angry today. You can kind of see that, because like I had like a hunch, and like I don't want to go to my doctor and be like, I told you so, but I literally asked him about this at the beginning of September, about 10 days ago, and he ignored me. And I could have been understanding what was wrong with me maybe a week sooner. I know that that's not big on the scale of like, you know, everything, but I'm angry because I knew that there was something wrong with me. There was a root cause, and everybody just kept telling me no. Everybody just kept telling me go to PT. And like, actually going to PT was what unlocked part of my problem, because my PT explained to me very nicely. He was great in this whole thing. He explained to me very nicely, Michelle, the problem that you have, it doesn't make sense for me to treat you, because it makes sense that you have something else that I can't treat. There's something else going on, and here's why. And he gave me like the list. He's like, we've checked to see, like, we've done x-rays. I'll get into my symptoms, but just to like kind of cover what happened in my PT. I did x-rays on my neck, I did x-rays on my back, and I had an EMG, which tests your nerves, and it all conducted fine. And when I went back to my PT, after he kind of like explained to me my results and stuff, because my doctors didn't, my PT was nice enough to like read the medical results or whatever to me. He explained to me that like, look, like, I know that there's something wrong here, but like what's going on here isn't what I can do for you is like not what you need, and you need to keep looking for answers. So that particularly was helpful. What was not helpful was being told, go take a muscle relaxer, go take this, go take that. That was part of my problem, but it wasn't the problem. And I just kept listening to my symptoms over and over and over again, listening to my symptoms, trying to find a root cause. So that was what prompted me to ask my doctor for a B6 test, and then to see if I was toxic or deficient. And then that prompted me to, once I was being ignored, and he still hasn't, to this day, he still hasn't responded back whether or not he will order that test. And it's been 2 weeks. So I got a private one, and that's when I did the panel, and that's what led me to make this video. And so like, I'm mad, and I think that that's normal, but I'm also kind of like, please, if there's anything that I learned, it's like, please don't take face value of what happens from the internet. The internet is kind of like, I mean, it's my fault, but like the internet is kind of like what led me astray to like thinking that like just taking a bunch of supplements when I didn't know if I needed them was like a good thing to do. They like made it seem like just because it was vitamins, it was safe, and I didn't know the risks, and that's my fault. So like this video is an awareness of like, there's risk. There's risk maybe because your body is like mine, or maybe everybody's body will react this way if you just took something with B6 for a long period of time. I took it for about a year. I know that there are people that took like way higher than me for like 10 years and they were toxic. But I don't think I could have gone like 4 months, never mind years, with the symptoms that I was experiencing. So my neuropathy or whatever, the things that like eventually set me off, which is like the loss of feeling of orgasm, my neuropathy, and my like numbness and stuff like that. That was what like prompted me to finally go get this figured out. So like, I don't know at what point your body becomes toxic to the point where like you can't deal with it. Like the way that the B6 toxicity affected my body is again gonna be different than how it might affect your body, but like it doesn't take a lot of time to just go get some tests done. I'm pissed that like it's not more obvious that this stuff can be harmful, but I also am kind of like, I can play devil's advocate and be like, well, I don't actually know if it's just something rare that happened and like my body had like the perfect storm, right? And like in a normal person this wouldn't happen anyway, so maybe there's not like a giant risk. But if there is a giant risk, I kind of need to talk about it because I feel like that's my duty. Like once I know something, I feel like that's my duty to kind of be like, hey, please don't do this to yourself. Like if I can help somebody either get the help that they need from the professionals that are there to help you, if you can find them, or like to help you with like your medical anxiety, because now you have some sort of like path to take or try. Yeah, that's kind of like all this video is. So I'm gonna get into the symptoms, but it was really important for me to tell you, please do not give your advice to people if you honestly don't know what is wrong with them. You could be thinking that you could be helpful, and I think that's a nice thing to do. But when it comes to medical stuff, I think that you should kind of keep that to yourself. And the best, most important thing that you could do is to like support that person. Support them on whatever part of the journey that they're on, in whatever way that that looks like healthy for you too. But to like give somebody a solution based on something you don't actually know, that's not helpful. But I honestly think it's like way more helpful to suggest something to be looked into, and then once you have confirmation, then you can be like, I had this too, and here's how I became better. It might help you, it might not help you, but if that's what you want to do, because you want to go down that same path, because I have experience with it and you want to talk to me about it, I'd be more than happy to help you. But it's not helpful to just kind of be like, this is what you need to do. That's not helpful. And I know that you know that, but like, I didn't want to make last week's video and publish it without actually knowing what was wrong with me, because I could have just been so desperate and grabbed onto anything that sort of kind of made sense, and like I could have just gone down any little path and it could have actually been harmful, more harmful than what I was already doing. So like, please don't do that. Just be supportive. And if it comes out that there's actual evidence that what you had is what they have, still there could be a very big difference between how your body reacts to the plan of treatment and how their body reacts to the plan of treatment. There could be obviously overlap, but I just want you to be like, to see how important that is. Please stop doing that. Let's normalize helping and supporting instead of normalizing unsolicited advice. I think that's take home. Okay, so I just barely got done filming the rest of my symptoms, and it was really long. So if you want to see my symptoms, I'm gonna do an extra bonus like video on my channel, which I normally don't do. I normally do a video every Friday, but tomorrow I'm going to upload my symptoms video. So today is like the unveiling of I'm B6 toxic, and then kind of like my shtick about it, and then tomorrow is going to be my symptoms. So if you want to catch that and not have to sit through like a very, very, very long video about somebody's medical stuff, if you're not really interested, there's going to be a specific video, excuse me, about my symptoms tomorrow, and it'll just stay up on my channel obviously. But if you were just interested in kind of like knowing what was wrong with me, and when watching this video, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys either tomorrow or next Friday. Take care.